Bill Clinton, the president that was in power when I was born, now a semi-senile old man, actually able to recall some truth about Palestine. We've got two very interesting clips to look at. Bear with me. This is going to be a little bit longer. I'm Tal the Traveling Clout, your favorite Zionist prince. Let's take a look at these clips. We'll start with this tweet. Bill Clinton was there. Palestinians weren't denied statehood. They were offered a state. They refused because their goal isn't a state alongside Israel. It's no Israel at all. Repost this now to educate. All right, let's take a look at what Khalil Bilton.
What's happened there in the last 25 years is one of the great tragedies of the 21st century. And when I tell the young people, for example, who are understandably in America, or let's say they're super sympathetic with the Palestinians, well, they've been killed. A lot of those Palestinians have, and all they know is that a lot more Palestinians have been killed than Israelis. And I tell them what Arafat walked away from. And they can't believe it. I said, oh yeah, he walked away from a Palestinian state with a capital in East Jerusalem, 96% of the West Bank, 4% of Israel to make up for the 4% that the settlers occupy that were beyond the borders in the 67 or more. And I go through all the stuff that was in the deal, and they it's not on their radar screen. They can't even imagine that happened. And I tell them, the first and most famous victim of an attempt to give the Palestinians a state was Prime Minister Rabin, whom I think loved as much as I ever loved another man. And so Rabin, he dies, and then Shimon Peres is defeated in the election, and where the rest of it is history. But you walk away from these once-in-a-lifetime peace opportunities, and you can't complain 25 years later when the doors weren't all still open and all the possibilities weren't still there. You can't do it. It's just...
Your voice just cracked when you said that.
Yeah. I'm an old guy. I have my regrets. That's one of them.
Here's the deal, and I appreciate Bill Clinton's truthfulness. Not that the Clinton family has ever been great, and neither has Bill Clinton. He's never been great. But there was an attempt from him to try to fix this issue too. The problem, what he doesn't disclose, and he might in this next clip, I'm not sure, is that Arafat knew he could not take the deal no matter what. It's actually, for all intents and purposes, Arafat did the most he was actually capable of doing, which is not much. Arafat can't actually, not in good faith, accept a deal that gives Palestinians control over the West Bank and East Jerusalem, because that's not, to them, that's not free Palestine. To them, that they don't care about. This is the part that people don't understand. They don't care about a Palestinian state per se, because if they wanted a Palestinian state, they could all literally pick up and move to Jordan tomorrow. If they wanted a Palestinian state, it's already there. The Palestinian culture is there. There is literally zero difference between the Palestinian culture in Jordan, which makes up 70% of Jordan, and the Palestinian culture in Israel or the West Bank or Gaza. There's zero difference. There's no diversity whatsoever. It's the same language. It's the same dialect. It's the same kafiyas. It's the same everything. Same food, same everything. Same religious practices, same heresy, hypocrisy, supremacy. It's all the same. But that's not what they want. It's not what they ever wanted. They wanted one liberated piece of land. That's why they wouldn't have cared after 67. If Israel would have lost, this land would have been half Egypt, half Jordan. And they wouldn't have cared. They wouldn't have needed Palestine. They just would have been Arab. That's what they want. They want Arab supremacy. Let's take a look at this next clip.
Let me talk about the hardest issue here in Michigan is the Middle East.
Apparently, by the way, the people who sent me this was to say, they said that, what's it called? This speech was given to a room full of Muslim Arabs in America.
And I have to be careful what I say because there's only one president at a time, and none of us can get ahead of where we're going. But I think we're going to have to essentially start again on the peace process. And I understand why young Palestinian and Arab Americans in Michigan think too many people have died. I get that. But if you lived in one of those kibbutzim in Israel, right next to Gaza, where the people there were the most pro-friendship with Palestine, most pro-two-state solution of any of the Israeli communities, were the ones right next to Gaza. And Hamas butchered them. And so then the people who criticize it are essentially saying, yeah, but look how many people you've killed in Ritalin. So how many is enough for you to kill to punish them for the terrible things they did? That all sounds nice until you realize, what would you do if it was your family and you hadn't done anything but support a homeland for the Palestinians, and one day they come for you and slaughter the people in your village? You would say, well, you'll have to forgive me, I'm not keeping score that way. It isn't how many we've had to kill, because Hamas makes sure that they're shielded by civilians. They'll force you to kill civilians if you want to defend yourself. And look, I worked on this hard. And the only time Yasser Arafat didn't tell me the truth was when he promised me he was going to accept the peace deal that we had worked out, which would have given the Palestinians a state on 96% of the West Bank and 4% of Israel, and they got to choose where the 4% of Israel was. So they would have the effect of the same land of all the West Bank. They would have a capital in East Jerusalem. They would have I can hardly talk about this. And they would have equal access all day, every day, to the security towers that Israel maintained all through the West Bank up to the Golden Heights. All this was offered, including, I will say it again, a capital in East Jerusalem and 2 of the 4 quadrants of the old city of Jerusalem, confirmed by the Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak and his cabinet. And they said no. And I think part of it is that Hamas did not care about a homeland for the Palestinians. They wanted to kill Israelis and make Israel uninhabitable. Well, I got news for them. They were there first. Before there was, their faith existed, they were there. In the time of King David, and the southernmost tribes had Judea and Samaria. But the whole fight that you have seen played out was present in the beginning for Israel. 2 parties, Likud and Labor. Likud says, we want the whole West Bank because we had it in the time of David, and to heck with whoever came later and other things. Labor said, we will take what the United Nations has offered us, and we will make a garden in the desert. And we will have friends, and we will work through it. And they did. David Ben-Gurion. They're still fighting this fight today. And So here's what I want to tell you. I'm going to do everything I can to convince people that they cannot murder their way out of this, neither side. You can't kill your way out of this. And they have to make a new beginning. But when I read that people in Michigan are thinking about not voting because they're mad at the Biden administration for honoring his historic obligation to try to keep Israel from being destroyed, I think that's a mistake. Because Donald Trump has shown what he wants. And I don't think it's, and he claims it's good for Israel, but I don't think it is. I think we still have to find a way to share the future. We cannot kill our way out of conflicts. But we do have to fight our way to safety. And make no mistake about it, we've got now Iran, a Shia state, the Hezbollah, a Shia sect, the Houthis, a Shia sect, now with Hamas, a Sunni Arab operation, united in thinking the only thing that we have to do is run every Jew out of Israel. And I'm sorry, but I'm not for that. I think that is wrong. It violates everything we've stood for. And in the end, it won't be good for the Palestinian people. I'll never forget Arafat, when he promised me he was going to take this deal we worked out. He always was fighting with Prime Minister Barak, and I said, wait a minute. I said, do you think I care about the Palestinian children? And he said, oh, much more than the Arabs do. He said, they only care about us when they need to blame America and Israel for their people being upset in the streets. This is far more complicated than you know. And all I ask you to do is to keep an open mind. But Kamala Harris has said that she will try to negotiate an end to the violence, an end to the killing, and a new peace process. And that ought to be enough. Okay.
Well, God bless it, Kamala Harris didn't come. Here's what I'll say about Bill Clinton here's what I'll say about the Democrats in general, at least the older Democrats, definitely not Kamala Harris, but Biden and Clinton. The way that they speak, their understanding on the conflict in the Middle East is so much more thorough than Trump ever will be. I've never heard Trump talk about the Sunni versus Shia and the different proxies. To be fair, I don't think Trump really processes or understands those things the same. And I don't think we've ever heard that kind of rhetoric coming from people like Bush or Reagan, like the true deep understanding of the region and the violence in the region and the way that these things, I don't think they totally understand it, nor do they care, because they deal more hooga booga. They're kind of like Mizrahi in a way. They're hooga booga. They talk about peace through strength and forcing the enemy to, and I agree with this. But there is a charm to hearing Bill Clinton actually understand what the fuck he's talking about. It's very interesting. Obviously, I think Bill Clinton is forced to say most of those things in that clip. I don't think he really thought that Harris was going to win. I don't think he really even believed in Harris. And I think, if I remember correctly, there's been multiple times where video footage of him and Donald Trump really getting on nicely. Because, I mean, obviously they're friends. Like, Trump was friends with the Clintons for a very, very long time. They probably still are friends behind the scenes, to be honest with you. All this politics shit, it's all politicians trying to fuck us over at the end of the day. But, yeah, I think that this is a lot of what he said is true, and it's hilarious to me to hear how silent the room got until he started shitting on Trump, or if he had to say something bad about Trump, all of a sudden then they remembered to clap. But when is anything before that, like if it actually had to do with the truth about what's going on, they just stayed silent. The reality is, if Palestinians ever wanted a state, they could have had it a bazillion times. They don't want a state. They don't care about a state. They want to cleanse the land of the Jews. And the problem is, we refuse to leave. We refuse to be cleansed. And no matter every single every single thing that they throw at you is actually a confession. They say we ethnically cleanse them, their population has increased tenfold. They say we're genociding them, their population continues to increase, and more babies are born in Gaza now than there were before the war. They say that we kick them off their lands while Palestinian population keeps growing in all the places they actually ancestrally lived in, including all of their heritage sites per se. Every single claim they say about us is actually a confession of the things they've done to us. Palestinians instigated the Mizrahi Jewish Nakba. That is true. Haj Amin al-Husseini, who is a Palestinian, the only real leader of Palestine ever in the history of planet Earth, he's the one who instigated directly the Iraqi Farhud, which got my parents kicked out of Iraq, their homeland, and brought to Israel. My grandparents were not Zionists per se. They were kicked out violently because of Palestinians who instigated it with Hitler and the Nazi SS. They actually ethnically cleansed 1 million Mizrahi Jews from their lands, and there are no more Jews really in the Middle East besides of Israel. They actually apartheid and ethnically cleanse Jews on a regular basis because there are no Jews living in any Palestinian cities in the West Bank. Not one. There are Palestinians studying in universities in the West Bank, like Ariel University, that hosts Palestinians from the West Bank as students. Don't buy the bullshit. Believe the truth. Come see Israel for your own eyes. Come actually learn and engage with Israelis, and you'll learn something. I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you a long time. Goodbye, Klats. If you believe in my content and want to support me, just know your help is needed. There's a bunch of great ways to support me, being PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or joining my Patreon community down below. Patreon is the best way to support my channel, and you'll get a bunch of cool perks depending on what tier you join. Another great way to support me is by buying my merchandise on thetravelingclat.com. I regularly drop new merch designs like this beautiful hat or this amazing shirt, where you can support the channel and get something cool for yourself. I also have an amazing Discord community with people from all over the world. Thank you so much for your support.